Well, what was he doing on a pier in the middle of the night?
Nice neighborhood, not known for hookers or trannies.
Stomach contents include soybeans, vegetables, whole grains. A health-conscious hooker.
How 90s.
Assuming she actually was attacked and this is not the figment of some fellow hooker's crack pipe. Many abusers are always paranoid and they got a lot of time on their hands because they never sleep.
I caught a speed freak once, DOA. Did so many half-cocked booby traps around his apartment, he tripped on one, blew himself through the bathroom door. Way to make 3 piles. Bomb squad pile, corners pile, and a whatever pile.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Hello, hi, welcome or welcome back if you have been with me before. Today it's a very exciting day. Today we are launching the new series. Woo! In this series we're gonna be looking into SVU, Special Victims Unit, and unpacking all its bad and terrible takes. I'm calling it Investigating SVU.
In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit. These are their stories.
I have been rutting my brain by watching various SVU episodes and picking out some of the worst ones of the bunch, and baby, there is a lot to unpack here. Not only is it racist.
So when a white woman's killed, you round up all the black men first, or do you ask a few white people some questions just to keep them prepared?
I know you gotta try it with us.
In front of your people, save face, Chuck. In front of your people.
Homophobic.
They found part of a fingernail in the front seat of the cab with red nail polish on it.
Kind of undercuts your gay theory, huh?
Could be a he-she.
Stop it. Get some help.
Classist a lot of the time.
Drug abuse, did that start at an early age?
Make us sound like a common junkie. They were prescription drugs, diet pills.
Only time I've ever seen a working girl run is to pick up a trick or to get high.
Child. Anyway, so
It also has inconsistent characters and just bad writing. And so I knew I wanted to talk about it. SVU, it's a bit of a indie, not really well-known TV show about some cops in New York. They only deal with special types of crimes. That's why it's Special Victims Units. I'm pretty sure it's
Any, sexually based crimes or anything to do with
kids? I'm not 100% sure. It really varies with some of the cases they take on. It's very disturbing. Some of the episodes, honestly, your soul feels dirty afterwards.
But yeah, I'm definitely not going to go through every episode because some of them are too traumatizing to talk about, but some of them are really bad and good to laugh at. So we'll be looking at those ones.
I obviously didn't go into SVU thinking it's going to be a good representation of the world that we live in, but it is a good representation of how the rich white people view the world. It's very biased and it's really bad. Just the casual racism, the transphobia, how much they demonize poor people and mental health issues and are super judgy of people who live on the streets.
So yeah, I knew it was something that I wanted to talk about and really
unpack as well. I've got a social science background, so actually looking into the dangerous takes they have and the research that shows that
being poor and doing crime doesn't make you a bad person. Doing some crimes, does, but just doing a bit of petty theft to get your basic needs met does not make you a bad person.
And I'm really ready to talk my ass off about this show. Let's pull back the misogyny, the pro-cop, anti-poor bullshit, and let us start investigating the many crimes of SVU. The intro of the show says that it is an elite squad.
To great these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad.
When after meeting some of the characters, you're going to be like, this is not an elite squad, because some of them have no idea what they're talking about.
The technical or psychosexual term, if you will, for fondling a stranger?
Fromage.
I believe it's frottage.
That is the precursor to the show. It opens up on a drizzly, rainy New York night, and 2 cops are called to a scene. They hop out of the car in the rainiest rain you've ever seen. I think if it was raining this hard, there would be flood. They are called to a scene of a taxi driver who's been stabbed and someone chopped off his pecker someone chopped off his Johnson. So that makes it a sex crime department. Elliot and Olivia introduce themselves as sex crimes.
Sex crime?
Olivia Benson.
Elliot Stable.
And I don't think you would call yourself that. It's not like Homicide is coming up and being like, hey, we're the murder squad. You don't like it when people call you that, so therefore, why would you be calling yourself that?
That's not my name. That's not my name. That's not my name. That's not my name.
Then we roll the classic intro, which is not changed and is still pretty catchy. And then we meet the squad. So it opens up following Cassidy,
who is an idiot. I don't know why or how he got on this elite team when he has no idea what's going on.
Sorry I'm late.
Necro, death, philia, love of. You try it.
You meet Detective Munch and the captain, who are both huge flops. The captain, honestly, isn't very good at his job. You also meet Jeffries, who is my favorite character. It is a crime that she got written off after the second season. And so they decide to, you know, start investigating this crime.
Aha! Then we need to get out there and investigate.
It is suddenly daytime. Everyone's all dry, so I'm so confused to what time of day it is, but whatever. Elliot goes to court, and Olivia got the license of the guy who was murdered, so they're going to investigate that.
Cab company, because the night guy didn't have a home address on the Vic. I'll do the hack bureau.
You can tell in this first season they're very much figuring out
What the vibe of the show is.
if they want it to be funny or not, because they very much played this scene for laughs.
So, to your personal knowledge, Mr. Gloucester's pants have never been unzipped in public.
I do see myself as the father of 4 children, none of whom I'd like exposed to Mr. Gloucester's
Shortcomings.
Shortcomings. Shortcomings?
Shortcomings, my ass, you
They definitely play it for laughs, which I don't think you would be laughing if this happened to you. So it turns out that the driver's license they had was a fakie because the person whose name it is, Victor Spicer, is actually in jail.
And
He's still in Rikers.
And therefore, he can't be the guy who's been murdered because he's still locked up. So they go in to tell the captain that, and the captain calls Victor scum when his crimes are being a sex worker and theft.
I pulled Spicer's sheet. Prostitution, soliciting, petty theft. He also managed to get 2 of his clients arrested, both married.
So he's scum, but he's not dead scum, so who's the stiff?
So he's scum, but he's not dead scum.
Oh my God!
And I really don't think that makes you scum. The dehumanizing and demoralizing language they have for this person is so extreme, and this was one of the reasons why I was like, I need to talk about this. Fuck this TV show for being so rude to Victor when he's honestly a nice guy and they're kind of homophobic to him. Anyways, Elliot and Olivia are terrible at their jobs because they don't realize that there's a whole ass photo on top of the lamination because it's a fakie, so it's been like doubled up, and the captain sees it. They make a joke about him, and jokes on you guys, you really should not be on this elite team.
Seems unable. I would take a ride over to Rikers and see if Mr. Spicer thinks he has any enemies.
But yeah, I think this scene really highlights the bias of this TV show of how if you're poor and do crime, fuck you. But if you're rich and do crime, like in a later episode, there's this white model who takes speed and they're like, yeah, she just needed to stay thin. She's a victim of the system.
It's not for profit, obviously. So it's a charity you're running. Speed keeps the girls in fighting trim. To them, it's like vitamins.
But when it's Victor Spicer, it's, you know what, fuck you and fuck your whole family. Calling someone scum for petty theft is pretty bold, and your bias is showing. Also, the captain apparently doesn't know why this is their case. So it's like, you guys are really bad at your job. As a captain, you should know what cases you have and why your department has them.
Well, why is this ours? The rest was Dr. Vic's unit.
But they only did this so they could do this little sight gag with him and this red licorice. We then go to Rikers, which is the prison that Victor Spicer is in, and they're really hostile to him for no reason. Someone just has his ID. Yes, he sold it. I also sold my ID when I was 18. Actually, I'm pretty sure I just gave it to someone because, you know what?
Maybe I'm scum.
Hopefully I don't get put in prison for that now. I was 18 at the time. I really didn't think anything bad of it. They're really rude to Victor. I feel like they're kind of homophobic to him.
Hey, you doing anything Saturday night? Oh, I'd hurt you.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
They go to the diner where Victor sold the
ID, and they show both photos of both Victors to the waitress, and she remembers both of them by first name. She's got an amazing memory. She's also kind of racist because she says this.
Jesus! I said Cornell talk, this is right. You know, it's like never hearing English.
Never hearing English.
Excuse me.
You work in a restaurant where everyone else is speaking English. Like, all these patrons are most likely speaking English. I think it's okay for you to sometimes hear a different language when the chefs
Obviously understand English because they're listening to you bark orders at them and are responding appropriately. They just happen to get the bread wrong.
I would make that mistake, and it's not because English is not my first language, it's because sometimes mistakes happen.
Anyways.
The Vic was in the diner all the time, and Elliot and Olivia don't go around and show his photo around the diner to see if anyone else knows him. They just leave, and luckily the waitress apparently beelined to someone else and told them that Victor was dead because he chased them out and is like, Victor died, he was my friend, tell me more. And they're like, which Victor? And then the original Victor slander continues because he says this about the original Victor.
Victor was killed. What's good about him?
What's good about him?
Which, like,
rude, what did he ever do to you?
Victor's real name is Steven.
You know his real name?
Steven.
The cabbie who told him that doesn't know anything except his name, and his wife is expecting another baby, so, like, extra sad.
His wife is pregnant. They just found out.
All right, it's a new day. So we are going to take a pause from this delightful episode
and talk about why Captain Cragen
friggin' sucks and why Elliot and Olivia also suck with the way they are slandering my man, Victor Spicer.
Not the guy who was murdered. We don't like him.
But the guy who's in jail right now for prostitution and petty theft. The fact that the captain calls him scum just shows you how we moralize crime and judge people who have committed crimes, who are poor, might have addiction issues, those who are unhoused, when it is not a choice.
So I have collected a little bit of research that I would love to
share with you just to kind of quickly unpack this before we get back to the laughs and gaff. The greatest precursor or indicator of high crime rate is extreme poverty and high rates of poverty, which is like, surprise, surprise. When poverty is high, crime is high. So an article published in 2023 looked at the driving forces of crime rates in 105 different countries, so that's a really wide sample size, and they confirmed what the academic literature has already been publishing and been stating for years, that absolute poverty and relative poverty are positively correlated with rates of assault, mugging, stealing, homicide, and intimate partner violence. So that just means as rates of poverty go up, so do the rates of, all those things. And that's not because poor people are bad. It's more nuanced than that, isn't it? This concept of poverty and crime is not new. It was first published in 1905 by a man by the name of William Bonger, friggin' sick last name. And he broke new ground by centering economic conditions and material needs as a cause of crime. Before that, it was just highly moralized. The ruling classes thought if you committed crimes, it was purely a choice and you were a bad person. It was very much just like a moral issue. The upper classes really thought that these lower class people are scum, they're not educated, they're shit, and that's why they steal. William Bonger really broke new ground by stating this theory, and ever since then it has been commonly known to be true. A lot of articles talk about it. Additionally, there is a higher rate of untreated mental health issues in populations experiencing poverty and in incarcerated populations. This all boils down like the large amount of untreated mental health issues in poor populations, mainly because of the fact that it is so inaccessible and expensive.
So I went through the healthcare system in so-called Australia because I could go to like the quick one, which would have like treated me right away, which was $2 grand.
Which I couldn't afford. So I had to wait around 3 months for a more economically viable psychiatrist, which cost me $900.
$900 dues to buy it!
With most Americans and a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck, there's no way you can afford $900 for your mental health.
So in order just to clear a few things up, one can simply not just work harder to get out of poverty. Poverty already creates fewer opportunities because there's lack of access to education, there's lack of access in terms of being able to like progress in your job because you're probably stuck in a low income job which takes up all your time because it's paid so low and you got to make rent, therefore you can't really train. Some people have different physical abilities, some people have mental health abilities which makes it hard to work, and it truly is, no matter how much you work in these low-income jobs, you're never gonna magically be able to afford like mental health care or even physical health care. Getting your teeth fixed is fucking expensive.
So there's a lot of barriers that lack of access to money will put on you. And yeah, it's not a choice to have no money.
Like if you come from a poor family, you're more likely to be poor. These are all systemic or system issues, and they're also cyclical, especially in terms of you come from a poor family, you're more likely to be poor. You experience a lot of trauma as a child and neglect, you're more likely to, use drugs as an adult. And I know there are some
people who do come from really poor families or even families that experienced a lot of trauma and manage to break out of the cycle and now become rich.
Two things. One, you are the exception of the issue. You're not the blanket rule. Yes, congratulations for you for making it out. But should it be that hard for everyone? Did you have something that was different compared to other people?
My dad grew up in housing commission and he's got a very toxic mindset that if he was able to come from migrant parents and work as a taxi driver whilst he was in law school and then get a law degree and now make good money, everyone should be able to do it. But what he doesn't recognize is that he had two parents who supported him, who took him to the doctor when he needed. If anything was wrong, like as an adult, if he couldn't afford rent, there was always an option to move back home. And even just having two loving parents who
don't abuse you puts you like miles ahead of other people, and he doesn't recognize that even though he might not have had a large amount of like disposable income, they had a roof over their head, they had stable housing. So yeah, instead of us judging people for being poor or unhoused, maybe we should do what the research says and look at the circumstances surrounding those individuals. There are multiple articles about how to reduce crime rate, and literally all of them say you need to focus on the circumstances surrounding the individual rather than demonizing or incarcerating the individual. When we address poverty, increase resources in terms of housing, mental health services, and services that help people get jobs, there is a decrease in crime rate. And I collected a couple of articles in order to prove my point, so no one can fight me in the comments, but if you want to fight me, please feel free. So in China, they trialed a poverty reduction program, and that found by decreasing poverty and increasing employment rates, there was a, quote, remarkable reduction in crime rates exceeding 20%. So that means that
with this reduction in poverty and this increase in employment, there was more than a 20% reduction in crime.
In Glasgow, in order to address high violent crime rates, they decided to adopt a public health approach instead of an incarceration approach. So they got people called navigators, like from the public health sector, who wore pink vests in order to really highlight the fact that they are not police. These people's jobs were to connect clients with new housing, enrolling them in alcohol and drug treatment programs, helping them with mental health issues and employment services, which resulted in a 50% reduction in violent crime. Flinders University summed this up really well. They released an article about how to effectively reduce crime rates.
So they said, and I quote,
increase public housing, more resources for mental health services, accessible and stronger drug and alcohol health treatment options, and victims of crime services, and addressing domestic and family violence in a proactive way would be more effective to reduce crime rates in the long term.
So yeah, that just proves to you that if we want to reduce crime, we need to look at the circumstances surrounding individuals and give more options for accessing basic services. So in sum, fuck these guys for being so rude
to Victor, for calling him scum when he is not scum. He is just poor. Before I end, don't get me started on the difference between white-collar crime and blue-collar crime. White-collar crime being rich people crime. It is embezzlement, it is tax fraud, it's anything to do with like large amounts of money, while blue-collar crime is your basic, like, you know, petty theft, arson, whatever.
Blue-collar crime is, first of all, targeted a lot more, so there are more resources
focused on blue-collar crime instead of white-collar crime. Also, white-collar criminals are jailed much less often than blue-collar criminals, even when the ramifications of the crime are greater for white-collar crime criminals. So there's a paper that looks at a bunch of different white-collar crimes, including people who embezzle and defraud like $10 million from thousands of people. A somewhat equivalent blue-collar crime, for example, two men who broke into a house and stole just a couple of things. These two men who broke into the house and stole a couple of things were sentenced between 2 and 20 years, whilst the white-collar criminals who defrauded tens of millions of dollars only had to pay a small fee and got no jail time.
This is a common occurrence. There are so many papers written about how
white-collar crimes are not targeted and are also hardly ever prosecuted, whilst blue-collar criminals are jailed somewhat indiscriminately. And also, I think it's like 20% of people in jail are those who haven't even been found guilty. They just can't afford to pay bond. So we really have set up a system that criminalizes being poor. Like, the fact that it's illegal to be homeless is ridiculous. No one chooses to be homeless. No one wants to be homeless.
I've linked a bunch of articles in the pinned comments with both my academic references and more like easy to read articles. A really great one I would recommend is called How the United States Punishes People for Being Poor. It touches on homelessness, poverty, and how, especially like homelessness is a result of lack of affordable housing, not because people don't want to work. And that a lot of rich people are greedy and just want to have a bunch of houses which are empty. I found this study that said that per unhoused or homeless person in the USA, there are 28 vacant lots. So there are 28 vacant lots per homeless person in the USA.
Disgusting!
So it's not the fact that we don't have enough houses or apartments or housing in general. It's the fact that it's just unaffordable.
A University of Cincinnati School of Criminal Justice study from 2000 found that most white-collar offenders were white males averaging 41 years old. 50% owned homes, and nearly 66% had steady employment. 94% were the only criminals in their family and didn't experience abuse, neglect, or abandonment as a child.
I'll make it rain all day long. My name is Floyd. My name is Floyd. My name is Money Mayweather. My name.
I'm a little baby. I'm a baby. I have no money. I can pay you in blocks. No.
In the USA, you can work a full-time job and still not be able to afford rent. And that is occurring in so many places in the world. So please don't think if people just work harder, then they could not be homeless or then they could not be poor.
Get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
Ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Sometimes it's a systemic issue that really needs to be addressed. And we should be kinder when we see people who are unhoused, who are experiencing mental health issues. If you have extra money, give it away. Trickle-down economics does not work, and all billionaires are problematic, and they're just
collecting resources like some sort of dragon who's greedy as fuck. Smaug is Elon Musk. Like, he's got too much money and is a horrible human. And every billionaire is not ethical. We need better distribution of wealth, and just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you're any better than a cleaner. Maybe you had better access to resources. Never have I ever needed to work harder in my life for the lowest amount of money than when I was a cleaner. Cleaners work fucking hard, it's really intense on your body, and you're kind of treated like shit by everyone around you. Let's stop being moral and thinking because we have degrees we're better than people, because that is not the case. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So getting all that information, they go back to the station, talk to the captain.
Randomly homophobic about Victor, and Olivia calls him a disco queen.
This poor guy is butchered and mutilated, and whoever did it thought they were killing that disco queen in Rikers.
Disco Queen and Rikers.
They're wondering who killed the victim, like who would have wanted him dead. And it turns out someone called the cabby dispatcher and was like, oh, is Victor Spicer working? Okay. On the night he was killed. And then
they're like, who could have done it?
And Munch is like,
maybe it was the person who called the dispatcher.
And everyone's like,
Oh, what happened to that? Or crowd dispatch.
Wow.
nice. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Keep that.
Good go.
Revolutionary. Keep up the work. And it's like, is that not the only lead that you have and one of the most basic leads to follow up on? Anyways, and then it turns out that they found out where the victim lives. They had police officers go door to door on a 10-block radius, apartment to apartment in New York,
to find out the address of this dead guy by like showing his photo.
And I'm like, would you actually do that? I mean, for a white person, yes, they would, and this person's white, so I guess that is true. If the character was black, they 100% would not be doing this, and maybe that's the social commentary they want us to pick up on. So thank you, show. Elliot and Olivia go to the address of the actual victim, and because Olivia is such a good cop, she recognizes the kid on the street, even though all kids look the same. Like, how did she know that it was this kid?
Yeah, I hope I don't sound ridiculous. I don't know who this man is. I mean, he could be walking down the street, I wouldn't know a thing.
And they intercept them, and the wife is like, oh, Steven, why, Steven?
Oh my God, no! Oh God! Why, Steven?
Her reaction is hilarious, especially when it turns out he knows that he's an evil person apparently, so I don't think it'd be like, why? When you know he's done bad things. But anyways, Olivia and Elliot go inside to like get some information. The wife tells them that he's Czech and never got a green card because he stayed too long, and then apparently he was gonna get deported. And that's kind of like all the information they get.
And then they go back to the precinct and they're still being like, I wonder who did this. And Elliot's all like,
It still reads gay to me.
And it's like, what about this seems gay? It only would have been gay if there were 666 stab wounds in the man's body, because as we know, that's the devil's number, and gay people, we all worship the devil, don't we? Because it's the devil that made us gay.
Then they find a red fingernail in the front passenger seat, so they assume it came from the killer.
The front part of the fingernail, the front seat of the cab, with red nail polish on it.
They're all like, maybe it was a he, she, and this is apparently hilarious because, like, we know what's more funny than being trans.
Kind of undercoats your gay theory, huh? Could be a he, she.
Cis straight men can wear nail polish, but whatever. Very yikes for, I guess, everyone who's not a cis straight person for this episode.
It's gonna be a yikes for me, dog. That's gonna be
A yikes from me.
Then they decide to go and question all the husbands of that Victor Spicer, the sex worker in jail, was found with. Maybe it was the wives who decided to stab this person 30 times and cut off his penis. I mean, like, if someone was having sex with your husband or your wife, whoever you're with, I don't think your first thought would be like, murder and cut off the penis. Like, all right, yeah. The Victor slander continues as they go question people who slept with him. Someone calls him street meat.
Fortunately, Spicer is a disgusting little piece of street meat, but he has an extraordinarily gifted orifice in the middle of his face.
Right to jail, right away.
Back in the office, a little side thing of Jeffrey's coming in and stealing the food of other people eating lunch, which is rude. I would have bitten her arm straight off if someone tried to take a whole serving of my
succulent Chinese meal. Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest.
And then I think they're trying to make sexual tension between Jeffries and Munch because...
Cool, John doesn't eat vegetables.
Yeah? The way I heard, that's not the only thing John never gets to eat.
Are they talking about him eating pussy? I don't want to think about that. He made a comment that if you're married, then you never have to hear the word no again because he didn't believe in marital rape.
Ever hear of no?
You ever hear of contractual abandonment? The only reason to forsake all others is so you don't have to hear no.
Stop it. Get some help.
Child. Anyway, so...
I feel like someone like that isn't into the pleasure of their partner if they're thinking that you should never be able to say no once you're married. Yikes. Definitely not into him getting any sort of romance. And they're definitely trying to shoe in his backstory. They make some comment about how he'll never go to Baltimore because he got left after one night of connubial bliss, which, first of all, calling it that.
The fact that I lost a wife after less than one night of connubial bliss to someone who was not only another detective, but a member of my own squad.
Connubial bliss.
Brother,
If you got left after one night of marriage and you've also been divorced 3 or 4 times, I think you're the problem and not the people you're getting. So I guess it wasn't a connubial night of bliss for her, which is why he got left. This backstory never really like comes back around. So why is this even in here? Okay, I think they're trying to make him funny, but it's not funny.
They find out that Stephen, the guy who was killed's real name is Stephen Panicek, so he had a fake last name.
He was a Serb who's wanted for war crimes as he commanded an ethnic cleansing unit and raped 67 women.
What did he do?
Commanded an ethnic cleansing unit. He was indicted, not convicted.
How many women?
67. Indicted, not convicted.
So the captain is all like, ooh, your partner's not going to be happy about this, talking about Olivia. I'm like, I wouldn't be happy about this. Like, what the fuck?
I don't need a problem. We can't be a problem unless she wants to be, unless you won't.
Olivia's all mad because obviously this guy raped 67 women, and so now they're going to look into his surviving victims because 5 of them live in New York. They go back to the victim's house to chat to the wife, and Olivia just comes in guns a-blazing, being like, fuck you knew all about him.
Let me ask you a question. What was it like sleeping with somebody who raped dozens of defenseless, terrified women?
My husband is dead! And you know why? Go!
But I'm like, did she really? Did this guy be like,
I raped 67 women and murdered a bunch of people?
Like, he could have just been very vague and was like, during the war, I killed some people. Who knows if she knows? But Olivia comes in assuming that she knows.
Well, that's the dumbest move I've ever seen you make.
But side note, in future episodes, they make it be like, oh, do you remember when I was new to the unit? And they talk about this case. And it's just like,
If you had a new partner, you wouldn't be like, oh, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen you done. You'd be like, oh, I don't know you very well. This is wild that you're doing this.
But yeah, Elliot sold.
If you drop the case, you have to leave the unit.
Blah, blah.
Blah. And Olivia's like, oh, fine, I'll keep it together. Let's go. And they go and start talking to some of Victor's victims. So the first person they go to is someone who they're clearly trying to cover her head. And they walk down the stairs and they're like, hello. And this woman fully looks in the wrong direction.
Who is that?
And the big reveal is that like, oh, she's blind and Victor did it. But you still have directional hearing. We hear best face on or with your ear to the sound. That's why our ears are designed this way. It captures noise this way, not this way. So it makes no sense that if someone's coming down the stairs, she's like, who is it? Why would you look away from the sound? You're gonna look towards the sound because you're gonna want to hear what's coming to you. So stupid. And then yeah, it turns out that and Olivia gets really creepy, all up in her face, and whispers, I would say menacingly,
I just want you to know, he's dead.
bitch, back up. Like, would you not think you'd be like, are you the one who killed them? Who are you? It would be scary and weird. Anyway, so then they are very ableist and are like, well, it was clearly not this woman.
Ileana Jashari is physically incapable of killing that pig.
It's like, oh, I'm sure a blind person can commit murder, but okay. Especially if they think it's like two people. Definitely not her, she couldn't do it. She's a broken woman. Olivia also vomits randomly. Like, she never says she's got a sore stomach. You know what I mean? I'm just like, why is she vomiting about this? Is it because she's a woman? And Elliot's really rude about it.
Remember that Tom Hanks movie where he managed the girls' team? There's no crying in baseball.
Right to jail, right away.
If I was with someone who just vomited, I would be like, are you sick? What have you eaten? Do you have gastro? Get away from me. I don't want to get a vomiting bug. He's just kind of rude and it's like, there's no crying in baseball. Okay, Elliot, every time you're upset, you just scream at people and bash them up. So maybe there's none of that in baseball. Get your toxic masculinity out of here. So then they go to another victim's house and she's not there, but her kid's there. And they get the same child actor who plays Victor's kid with his wife. This kid with this other woman. Look at these two women. They look nothing alike. Unless Victor is producing clones of himself, these kids would look different. They would be different ages. Why are these kids the exact same age? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, so that was an interesting choice. Like, they should have just gotten maybe a slightly older kid who looks the same, or Victor have like a very specific birthmark that the other kid has. They're even more convinced that it kind of must be this woman since she had his kid, when it's like, I mean, we already know that he assaulted her. Like, why would it make it any different that she would do it because he has her kid? Anyways, Elliot goes to some parent-teacher night. It's end of day, and Olivia is like, I'm gonna go home. And then she's like, actually not. And then she goes and talks to the woman. So Olivia rocks up at her office, and you find out what happened to this woman, which was brutal.
His unit came into the village, took all the men, old men, and all the boys over 7 to the school and machine gunned them. Tanzik picked me out. He raped me every night for 23 days.
Oh yeah, this guy definitely deserved to die. Like, he didn't just like kill 1 or 2 people. He killed heaps of people and obviously really enjoyed keeping people hostage and assaulting them. I'm sorry. Yes, death to you.
Death to all of them.
So then I guess Olivia feels all guilty and like calls Elliot, and he yells at her, surprise, surprise, and is all mad that she went by herself when I don't think it really would have like changed the case that much.
Did you tell her she was a suspect?
And then the next day, they're at the office and Olivia's like clearly trying to defend the woman, but they don't even check the alibi of the husband, asking what time she came home, seeing if anyone heard him. They 100% don't check on that alibi. So once again, shoddy police work.
Oh, but before the next day, Olivia goes and has dinner with her mum, which is the most inconsistent writing, because you can tell that there's a lot of love between
Olivia and her mum. It turns out Olivia was the product of rape. Her mum's all just like, I don't regret that it happened because I never would have had you. But then in future episodes, Olivia's all like,
now I understand why my mum could never love me and why my mum hated me so much and why my mum was an alcoholic.
When from what we're seeing here, yeah, that did not happen. Like, your mum loved you a lot.
I hate him for what he did to you. So do I. And if he hadn't, you would not be here.
The next day, Olivia is defending the woman, being like, I don't think it's her, and Elliot's all sus, being like, I think it is. And then they go to keep questioning more of the victims. So they go talk to this older woman who's running a restaurant. It turns out Victor killed her son and husband with a hatchet.
Years ago, in Yugoslavia. How did you know? He murdered my husband and my 4-year-old grandson with a hatchet.
So once again,
Death to all of them.
And Elliot's all super sus because she's got a cut on her hand, but she does have an alibi because she was at work until 1, which they don't check. So once again, shoddy police work there. They decide to con these women to try and get them to confess.
We don't have a case.
Oh, yeah, we do.
There's no proof.
They don't know that.
Ellie,
We're arresting them now.
first you're lost, it'll have now 20 minutes.
Now it's making close.
I'm narrating this.
Now.
Which is just like pretty fucked because in every episode where they have a rich person, the captain's very much like, we need all this evidence, we need to have this and this and this because otherwise the lawyer's just going to come in and free them. And Olivia even makes a point that any law student would be able to free these women and they don't have a right to get any of their DNA or even detain them. But Elliot's like, nah, fuck these immigrants. They don't know their rights, therefore I'm just going to con them. I don't know if the show was trying to make a comment that this is wrong, but I really don't think that they were, especially because it turns out they are guilty. So I don't know, fuck Elliot.
That's suspicious.
And fuck cops in general because they're pretty much fooling these women. They pick one of them up as like, yeah, we have an eyewitness, even though they don't have that, obviously just to scare them into confessing. But if they were rich, they would have lawyers who would free them immediately. So that's a bit messed up to prey on the fact that they're immigrants who don't know their rights. So pick the young one up first and scare her and make sure she's outside where they go pick up the older one. When they pick up the older one, they're like, oh, we're gonna test your DNA against the DNA of the fingernail in the cab. So she's like, oh, we're fucked, even though they don't actually have the right to take her DNA.
We're gonna figure it out from the front seat. We're gonna get a DNA match on that.
So she's like, can I call my lawyer? She doesn't say it like that, but she's like, can I call my lawyer? On her way, she grabs a knife from a customer's table and look at how big this knife is. What kind of restaurant is giving up hunting knives with their steak? It's like, how overcooked is the food? And she, let's say, takes herself out of the equation and gets herself in her femoral artery. Brutal, but then also questionable because as she dies, she's like, don't help me. I just want to see my family.
Don't help me.
But like, if you're taking yourself out of the equation, wouldn't you confess to the crime so that your friend doesn't get in trouble? Wouldn't you be like, it was all me? Or like, it was me and my brother? And like, obviously don't say it if you have a brother, but say it was someone who they can't access. You know what I mean? Just like, it was me and my mom. And then your friend isn't gonna get in jail. Like, why the fuck would you not confess? And then, yeah, they go back to the precinct and the young one kind of like confesses to everything, not fully. She's like, we were just stabbing. It was all the other person's idea. I just felt rage. And then they decide to be nice because they're like,
Don't take me into small, severe emotional distress.
they're acting like they're doing her a service by only charging her with man 2.
Sure as hell don't want to go to trial. All they've got to do is get Tanzik's war crimes indictment in and her friend's suicide, and she'll get a walk.
She'll get a walk. She'll get a walk.
So wouldn't the nicer thing be just A, don't charge her at all, or B, take it to court so then she gets to walk? Like, they don't have any evidence. This is just so stupid that they're like, oh, we're doing her such a favor by getting her 2 years in a psychiatric facility.
Arraigned, minimal bail. She'll be home with her kid in time for dinner.
Thanks, Abby.
And then the captain gets all mad, being like, my ass, this is man 2, shut up.
But sure as hell ain't man 2.
Well, we don't
Shut up.
It's so rude. It's like, why do you care if they got man 1 or man 2? Like, you know what this guy did, and you're really mad that you're not charging for premeditated. You know what I mean? It's just so stupid. I hate the captain. And he's like, you used your only get out of jail free card, Olivia. You've only got 1 in the pack.
You used your get out of jail free card on this case, Olivia. There's only 1 in the pack.
You think this would come up again? It does not. I've watched all of season 1, all of season 2, part of season 3, and all of season 7. Maybe it comes up somewhere, but if you're gonna sew a line, it needs to come back within the first at least season or 2 seasons. This never comes back again, so that's also annoying. I don't know what they were trying to do with this episode.
Are they trying to be like, oh, no, it is right that this person got in trouble for killing this other person who was a serial killer?
I don't know. I'm interested to hear what you guys think, because I think the show was very much just like, yeah,
only the state gets to murder people.
But yeah, all fun and games. There's more egregious episodes in the future where like timelines don't make sense, props don't make sense. Oh, and one thing that doesn't make sense is they never go back to the penis thing. Like, which one chopped off his penis? It doesn't come back. Like, they took it with them. These women would not take it with them. They never talk about the penis again. It was just such a throwaway thing at the start that never comes back. Like, what did they do with it? Like how much blood did they have on their clothes if they're literally like cutting him up?
Yeah, I'm excited to know what you think. If there are any other episodes that you know are outrageous, please recommend them down below.
I'm excited to do a couple more episodes and talk to y'all again. Okay, bye.